WCCC-FM Hartford. Classic Rock 106.9.
The Rock 106.9 WCCC. It's Caroli celebrating the radio station for the day, for the final day, as a matter of fact, because 5 o'clock this afternoon, changes are coming. But we want to look back and reminisce about the past and the glorious, in my opinion, glorious history of this great radio station. And none greater than the man that I have on the phone right now, Howard Stern. How are you?
You're too kind, but Mike, I will accept that. Or are you going by Caroli?
Either one. I go a first name and a last name.
All right. Well, listen, Mike, I truly was shocked, believe it or not, to read about WCCC changing format. And I guess it's going to be a religious station. I don't know if you're allowed to say that or something.
That's the rumor.
That's the rumor, yeah. So, look, radio always is in change, and, it's really up to fans to support a radio station. And, you could be sad because that station, WCCC, at least in my estimation, was the rock station in Hartford. We always had a rivalry with the other station, but, WHCN, it was a big rivalry. But, to me, in my career, when I got a job doing mornings on WCCC, it was such a big moment for me. And I remember walking into WCCC and thinking, oh, my God, I've hit the big time. Believe it or not, I was working in a small station in Westchester, and for me, this was like a big deal. It was a 50,000-watt radio station where I could really be heard. The radio station I worked on previously didn't even get ratings or anything. That's how small it was. So this was a very, very big deal for me to work at WCCC, and I remember walking in and being so intimidated and nervous. This was my, I actually had an audition with the program director, Bill Nozzle. Mm-hmm. I bet you a lot of people will remember Bill. Bill was a great guy, and he gave me my break at CCC. And don't forget, this station was the station everybody listened to, especially even people from New York and from Boston, because when you went back and forth, when you drove, you listened to WCCC. And I remember thinking, God, these are the worst call letters ever. Like, CCC is really, well, quite frankly, it's effeminate. You know what I mean? You're CCC, and it was like, whoa, I don't know how I'm going to actually approach this. But I remember going in nervous, and I auditioned for Bill, and Bill thought I was so horrible on the air that he said, you can't have this job. And that I was so determined to get the job, I called him, I said, can I have one more audition? And he put me in a little production studio there, and my hands were shaking. I was so nervous, and I just said, I want this job so badly. And lo and behold, Bill saw something in me. I don't know what. But I got the job, and I had to go meet with the owner. And the owner at the time was a guy named Cy Dresner. And we banged out a big negotiation. I was making all of $250 a week. And I was beside myself. I couldn't believe I was making that kind of money. It was insane. I thought I was a millionaire. It was, I'm going to do morning radio, the thing I love to do, and get $250 a week. So, and I suspect probably the morning guy now isn't making much more money than that.
It's about the same.
It's about the same, right? But like Hartford was such a pivotal moment in my career, and the fans were so great, and that's the sad part. There's such a rich history. There were so many great guys who worked there. Like, I met the guy who still works with me, Fred Norris. I met him at WCCC. He was doing overnights.
Yep, that's right.
And what a rich history. You'd go in and you meet these great guys who are all trying to find themselves in radio, guys like Peter Cole and Brian Battles. But they were just, like, it was a place where young broadcasters could learn, and you could make your way, and you could make a living. Granted, not a great one, but nevertheless, you could make a living, and you could, maybe be discovered, or maybe even settle in Hartford and raise your family there. I mean, it's such a magical place. And people used to say to me who are from New York, how could you live in Hartford? I said, I hated leaving Hartford. I really loved it. I loved the small-town community where everyone knew each other. It was really remarkable. And so, this rich history, and it's a rock station. I never, ever would have considered that WCCC would be anything but a rock station. Southern New England's best rock. That was the slogan we used to use. What do you guys use now?
We are now Hartford's Classic Rock.
Hartford's Classic Rock, okay. And don't forget, when I started syndicating my radio show, for a long while I was syndicated into Hartford.
Oh, yeah, I was here all that time. I remember Cy and Ron Dresner both putting the deal together, yeah.
And it was great. I mean, and again, we had a great success there. So, it just feels weird that, because I do meet guys who are going into broadcasting, and you wonder, like, where are people going to get that training? Where are people going to learn? Where are people going to get to work their stuff out? And where are people going to develop? And I don't know anymore. There's so many big corporations taking over radio, and I mean, I guess that's the way of the world, and you can't cry about it. You just got to figure out a way to fit in. But it is very sad. I just have such a warm spot in my heart for Hartford. In fact, I'm mad at you guys. How did you let this happen? I leave you alone for a few years.
Yeah.
Look what you've done.
I blame you for leaving.
Yeah, blame me. I blame you. You blame me. But what a great radio station. I mean, I've got a million stories about those studios and the people who work there. It's really very, very sad. And I bet you there's a lot of fans who are devoted to WCCC who've probably listened to it their whole lives who are really in shock and sad over this. I think sometimes corporations and deals are made with corporations, and they forget that the people who listen are really attached to the history of their radio. And I don't know. Are you sad?
I am sad. I've been here 28 years, so
wow.
Yeah, it's been a long run, and I've been doing middays that entire time. So,
wow.
Yeah,
what are your plans?
What's that?
What are your plans, Caroli?
Summer, vacation, beach. Right. No, I'm not a guy that's actually going to take a lot of time off. I don't know what the future will bring, but come Monday, I'm back at it, trying to find the next thing. And I'm pretty confident for some reason that next chapter is going to be bigger than the last. And the last one was pretty big.
Well, I got to tell you, as someone who's been in radio a long time, I can tell you that anybody who is looking for good people, WCCC always hired great people, and I'll bet that you would be a great addition anywhere to any radio station because you've had that experience in Hartford. And Hartford's a tough radio market. It really is. People think it's easy. You're going to breeze in and you're just going to be number one because, hey, Hartford must be an easy town. It's not. They don't take to strangers right off, and that's why I'm grateful to Hartford. They took to me. I didn't know the community, and I just moved there from New York, and I felt so lost. And the people of Hartford were so gracious to me when I lived there, not only in terms of radio, but also I made a lot of personal friends. So it's a great town, and it's a great radio station with a great tradition. And I guess we'll start learning all about Jesus on, what is it? When's this all happening?
5 o'clock this afternoon.
Wow. Well, to all my friends in Hartford, I want to say a hearty hello, tell you that I love you all, and that I love WCCC, and I'm sorry to see it stop being a rock station. It was one of the legendary great rock stations like WBCN in Boston and WNEW in New York. I mean, there's certain radio stations that had a history, and WCCC was one of those legends. And I bet you Bill Nozzle is somewhere crying.
Yeah, I bet you're right. I bet you he's still local, so I'm sure he's listening.
He's not going to be happy about this.
Well, you put us on the map, in my opinion anyway, not only, from the time you were here originally, but then again, when all the talk that you gave us when we were syndicated with you, and then, of course, the time in the movie that was focused on CCC in Hartford. I mean, in so many ways, Howard Stern put this station on the map, set us on the right course, and I don't know that we could have become the great radio station that we are today if it wasn't for the way you started us off.
Oh, that's really nice of you to say. In fact, I'll tell you, when I made the movie Private Parts, I actually shot a whole bunch of scenes in Hartford, reflecting my years there. And, of course, some of it was in the movie, but I'd say that 50% of what I shot in the Hartford years wasn't even in there. And I always wanted to release that on some sort of DVD because there was some really funny scenes of me staying in a hotel at the Berlin Turnpike.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And we shot them, and I love the scenes, but the movie just got too long, and you had to take some stuff out. But it was pretty cool, and I was really kind of pleased that I got to publicize WCCC in a national way, because I'll really tell you something. And maybe I'm just getting old and I'm getting nostalgic, but man, oh man, it was such a great place and a great place for broadcasters. Wow, it feels really strange.
It really does.
I really am affected by this.
It's the end of an era, it really is, and I'm grateful that we have an opportunity to say goodbye, because as you know, you don't really get that opportunity in broadcasting too often. So I'm grateful for that, but it's very sad.
So management said okay to us having a conversation on the air, huh?
Believe it or not, yeah. I mean,
well, that's cool of them.
It is. I'm bringing back some people from the past. Hopefully we'll have Litch on the air. Do you remember Litch?
I remember him, sure.
Yeah, he's still in Connecticut radio, so we're going to have him on, and all kinds of people. Some of the bands. We're going to have some of the bands that we broke over the years, like Stained and Shinedown. Those guys are going to be on with us, and
yeah, I remember when I was there, we would play a lot of Bob Seger, a lot of commercials for the Shaboo. They still got the Shaboo?
The Shaboo closed, as far as I know. I think it's gone.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
You see, everything's changing, man. I can't handle it. But, yeah, they had the Shaboo and Jonathan Edwards. I always talked about the music in Hartford. It was really weird. It was some sort of strange thing, because there was a lot of acceptance of Southern rock, which you don't hear in any, you don't hear in New York or you don't hear in Boston. And so there was a lot of Outlaws, Marshall Tucker Band.
Yep.
Skinner. It was crazy. It was like a whole different musical scene going on in Hartford. It was its own community, its own world. And that's what's so great about local radio. For some reason, and when I worked there, Bill was the program director, he really tapped into all of that. And it was like a whole different broadcast experience for me, and that's what I loved about it. You really learned a different sort of rock culture there. So, yeah, it's crazy, but I'm really glad I had an opportunity to speak with you. I don't do a lot of this. I got the email that you wanted me to call in, and I said I was sitting with my wife, and I said, it was a late night last night because we did America's Got Talent, and I was like, whoa! I said I really do have to call in. I feel a sense of responsibility to call in and say goodbye to this great radio station, and radio stations do mean something. They're not just pieces of equipment.
No, they're a companion. They're a lifestyle. They're, you get, you engage with the guys on the air, and you get, invested in their lives. And we've always been able to do that over the years. We've always been a little different than the station down the dial. And I think that's part of what drew people to
the competition.
Station.
Was HCN still a rock station?
They were called the River.
And what do they play?
Soft rock.
Wow, that's unbelievable, too.
Yeah, Elton John, Melissa Etheridge kind of stuff, Journey.
We had, when I was on, when I actually lived in Hartford, the rivalry between HCN and CCC was something fierce.
Yes.
And I'm convinced the reason I got hired out of Hartford is because HCN said, hey, let's hire this guy out of the market. So they had their consultant hire me in Detroit, which was a very smart move.
Sure.
They said, hey, let's get rid of this guy and get him a better job. And I remember walking into the boss's office, Cy Dresner, and I said, Cy, I need $25 more a week. I've been there a year or so. I said, I really need $25 more because I couldn't meet the rent. And he said, well, I got to think about it. So I took the job in Detroit. That's sort of the sadness, too. It's the economy, too, that controls radio stations. And, listen, every business has to deal with that. And that's sort of what's sad, too, with these radio stations, that I'm imagining that this is just a matter of economics,
That's a big part of it. A lot of people are, they're going to speculate because we were an active rock station and we changed to classic rock. And a lot of the listeners were upset because they didn't hear new rock bands anymore.
Right.
And, and a lot of people are going to think, well, they went classic rock. That didn't work. So they're selling. And it's really more of a financial situation than a format situation.
Yeah, it's hard in radio when you have. When I was at CCC, we could really break new bands, and that was very exciting and very cool to do as a radio guy, to be able to introduce new music. But as much as people say they want new music, a lot of times they hit the button when new music comes on, and they don't want to sit through a song they don't know. And so it's very confusing for radio stations. and how they can promote new music and still maintain ratings and revenue. So it is a business, and it's just sad, and I'm sorry to hear about this. And I'm sorry for you guys, because, I mean, look, this is your home for the last, how many years? 27 years, you said?
I've been here 28 years, yeah.
28 years, wow. So, you're losing your home, too, and I'm sorry, and sorry to hear that.
It's okay. You know what? The lessons I've learned here and the experiences are going to catapult me into the future, and all of us, the entire staff. We got great people here, and
it's true. I mean, one thing I remember about CCC, you didn't just have one job at CCC. You had to do 50 different jobs.
Yes, I was big on, getting you to do several things.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I do a radio show. I do the news. Then I go cut commercials all day. I mean, I got an education,
Yeah.
It was a WCCC sweatshop.
Right. Cy is still around, too. I'm going to try to get a hold of him and see if we can get him on the air.
Oh, that's the guy. I mean, Cy is the guy who really made rock and roll radio in Hartford. The great story. You got to get Bill Nozzle on the phone and have him tell you about Cy, and when Cy once had to go on the air. I don't know whether the morning man didn't show up. There was something like that. And Cy was an older guy, and he got on the air, and he introduced Mr. Led Zeppelin and Mr. Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I think Bill still has those tapes because he loves it. It was great. We all had great fun with Cy because, hey, he would go on the air, and he would just sound totally out of place. And it was great. He was a great guy, and I'm very grateful to the experience I had in Hartford and the people of Hartford. So great to speak to you, and I don't know what to say. It feels weird.
It feels very weird.
It really does.
But I'm honored that you called. I'm so thrilled that you did. And I think it was very important, and it was very cool of you to call us and, send us off in style.
All right, Mike. Good to speak to you, and I hope you find your next job really quickly.
I will.
All right.
Thank you, Howard.